Students, today we are going to talk about fuels. What are fuels? Fuels are nothing but substances which release enough heat energy to be used for domestic and industrial purposes. So basically any fuel, what is a fuel? What kind of examples comes to your mind when you think of a fuel? You think of a coal, you think of a petroleum, you think of a natural gas. These are all the examples of fuels. And petroleum, diesel. So why they are called as fuels? Because they are capable of generating huge energy. How do they generate that energy? By the process of combustion. Only when they react with oxygen, they are able to release a lot of energy, and that energy is released in the form of heat. And this process of combustion, so basically they are nothing but the combustible substances, but at the same time not all combustible substances are fuels. Only those combustible substances which release sufficient amount of energy, so that energy can be utilized for different purposes. For example, the energy that is generated by burning coal is utilized in several thermal plants to generate electricity, right? Similarly, the energy that is generated out of petroleum, whether it is petrol or diesel, so that is used to run vehicles. So that means the energy is huge enough to be used for different purposes. So then those kind of combustible substances are fuels. Let us look at some examples of fuel. First example is coal. So we can even look at some other examples like a petroleum, wherein you have petrol, diesel. So these are also examples of fuel. And another example of the LPG, which are there, in which just you put inside your cylinder. So this also has efficient, if this also generates sufficient heat energy which helps in our domestic purpose of cooking. Natural gas, biogas, or cow dung cakes. In fact, in villages and rural areas you would have seen that they do not use LPG gas cylinders, and all they often use the cow dung cakes, and with that they try to prepare food. So cow dung cakes, however, there are a lot of disadvantages associated with the usage of cow dung cakes, because they produce lot of pollution, they produce a lot of smoke, which is disadvantage to the health of the women preparing food. But yes, they are still considered as a good fuels because they generate a lot of energy. Wood is another example of a fuel. When you burn wood, the energy generated is huge enough that you can actually prepare food, so it can actually boil things, so that much energy is generated during the process. Now, when we talk about a fuel, what do you think defines a good fuel? How do we know which is a good fuel and which is not? Because just now I gave you so many examples. I told that cow dung cakes are also fuel, but they are not preferred to be used because they cause pollution, because they adversely affect the health of the women. Now, so in a similar way, I mean that what are those characteristics which defines whether of fuel is a good or bad? So let us quickly look at the characteristics. First of all, it should be easily available. Now if that fuel is not available, then then there is no point, because the fuel we use it, so even though it has a lot of properties, but that does not make any sense. It has to be cheap. If it is very expensive, then a lot of people will not be able to use it. So it has to be extremely economical, burns easily to something which generates electricity or generate energy. In order to generate energy, it has to react with oxygen. Now the easier it reacts with oxygen, the better it is, because it immediately burns a lot of energy and releases energy. And next, the basic definition of a fuel. So it should burn very easily and it should release a large amount of heat. So the larger the amount of heat it produces, the larger energy it produces, and then that huge energy can be utilized for different domestic purposes or industrial purposes, does not leave undesirable residues behind to cause pollution. Now this is very very important when we decide which is a good fuel and is not. Most of the fuels, in fact a lot of fuels, they generate a lot of energy in the form of heat, but at the same time they also produce a lot of harmful gases. They generate a lot of smoke, they leave a lot of residue after being burnt. Now even if you completely burn a particular substance, you see that, for example, when you burn vapor, burn a paper, what is left behind? You have ashes left behind, so it is called residue. Whatever left behind after complete combustion of that substance, that is called residue. So any fuel which leaves behind a lot of residue, so what happens to that residue? That residue, if it is something which is harmful, then that is waste to our environment, because it is just using that fuel is actually piling up those waste materials in the environment. So while deciding whether a fuel is good or not, it is very important that you have to see that is being left after the process of combustion is over. And a good fuel is one which does not leave a lot of undesirable residue, so that it is does not cause environmental pollution. Now it is very important to see that the fuel which we are categorizing as a good fuel is good for the environment, because it is, if it is harming our environment, then basically there is no point in generating energy from such a fuel, which in turn is causing harm to the environment and is causing harm to us. So here we will talk about those three important criteria without which combustion can never happen. And what are those three criteria? The first is a fuel, a combustible substance is needed. Until and unless you have a combustible substance, so obviously which object will catch fire? So you need to have a substance which easily catches fire. You need air. Why do you need air? Because as I mentioned before, that oxygen is extremely important for combustion to take place. What happens during combustion? The substance reacts with oxygen. So without oxygen there will be no reaction, there will be no energy released. And the third criteria is heat. Now the question is, why do we need heat? We need heat because we need to increase the temperature of the substance to a particular temperature so that it can catch fire. Now we are going to talk about each of these points in more detail one by one. And we will see that how each of these criteria is important for combustion to take place. Now the first point, that is combustible substance, and in this we have already discussed that not all the substances readily burn. So those substances which easily burn to produce a lot of heat and light, they are called combustible substance, and one such combustible substance has to be present for combustion to take place. So now we will talk about the second factor, that is air. Why is it necessary for combustion? Now in order to understand this, what we will do is, we will do a small experiment, or we will do a small observation rather. So for this what we need is a candle which is already lit. So with this lighted candle, what we do, what do you see? What do you see now? So the candle is lit and it's played perfectly. It's glowing, the flame is seen distinctly. Now I take a glass and just put the inverted glass over this candle. What happens? The candle still glows for some more time, but after some time it goes off. The flame will be off. Why? Why did this happen? Because we did not do anything to blow off the candle. So whatever you observe till now, just do one thing. Just note down the time for which the candle was lit, even after the inverted glass was put over it. Initially it was blowing. We put the glass, it still glowed for some time. So let's note the time. So let's say it glowed for some time. So t1 seconds, and after that it went off. So why we need to go off? Because when we have put this glass, we have actually limited the amount of air which is being provided to the candle. When the glass was not there, there was a plenty of air surrounding the candle. So it was utilizing the air for the process of combustion. And now when we have put the glass, so it is only that much of air which could be accommodated for this glass, only this much air available to the candle. So the candle utilized all the air which is present inside this glass, but after that there is no air, there is no oxygen, so there is no combustion can happen, and therefore it just went off, right? So that's the first set of experiment which tells us that air or oxygen is necessary for combustion. Now we will do a little more experiment with the same thing. Now what I do is I take the same candle, but now I change the glass. I take a bigger glass. So when you take a bigger glass, what happens? Again the candle will blow for some time, and note down the time in this case. So let us suppose this time, the time is say t2 seconds. Now what you will have observed here is this time, the time for which the candle was blowing. Before it, again obviously here also it will go off after some time, because here came we have put a limitation, so it can utilize the air which is there inside this glass. But what we observe is T2 is greater than T1. That means the timing for which the candle lighted in the second case is more than the time for which the candle was on in the first case. Why that was? Because in the second case the glass was bigger. Second case it was a big glass, and in the first case it was a small glass. So when the glass was small, there was less amount of air. So there was less amount of oxygen available. So therefore the candle would light only for some time. But in the second case, the glass was bigger. So larger amount of air was present inside the glass. So larger amount of oxygen was present. Therefore, the process of combustion could happen for little good time. And therefore, the candle lighted for a little longer than case 1. So, this experiment further proved that yes, air plays a very critical role for combustion. Again, if you want to experiment with some apparatus, what you can do is maybe you can just lift this glass a little bit upwards. So when you lift it a little bit upward, what happens? A gap is created here. Now, right? Now the glass is placed inverted or the surface or then the table. But if you lift in a little upward, what happens is a gap is created here. So some amount of air will enter through these gaps. So in this case, candle will not immediately go off. Instead, it will start to flicker, or while the flame flickers. The flame flickers due to limited supply of oxygen or even sufficient supply of oxygen. So these experiments prove that air is very necessary for combustion. In fact, you can try out this experiment also. You will find it interesting. You will say that in one case you take one candle and cover it with an inverted glass. In the second set, instead of one candle, you take three candles and cover it with an inverted glass of the same size. Now what do you observe in the first case? The candle glows for some time and then goes off. And in the second case also, all the three candles they glow for some time and then go off. So let's suppose in this case the time for which they remain lighted after the gas is being put is T2. And in this case, let's say it is T1. So in this case, which will be more? In this case, we will be that T1 is greater than T2, because here the amount of air which is available in both the cases is same, because the glass is of the same size. But in this case, though there is only one candle to consume that air, but in this case there are three candles to consume oxygen. So the contenders are more, therefore each of them get only 1/3 of the air which is present inside the glass. Therefore the candles go off faster than in case of the first scenario. So it is seen that a single candle burns for longer time than three candles when covered by the same glass. So all these experiments with candles and glass proves that combustion cannot take place without air, without oxygen. Now the third criteria, that is heat. Why it is heat needed for combustion? Before we talk about it, let us think of some simple scenarios. So, think of the matchstick. How does a matchstick catch fire? There is a matchstick catch fire on its own? No. We need to put some effort. What do? We have to strike the matchstick against the rough surface of the matchbox. So only when we do that it catches fire. Why do we strike it? And why is that needed? That is because when we strike the matchstick with the matchbox, there is friction, and friction produces heat. And when this heat is produced, it increases the temperature of the matchstick. And when the temperature increases, it catches fire. So basically what this example tells is any combustible substance catches fire only when its temperature reaches ignition temperature. Now you might ask for this ignition temperature. So we will talk about it just now. So it basically means that it is not that any substance will catch fire just any time on its own wish. So the substance will catch fire only when its temperature reaches a particular temperature. So in order that the temperature reaches that temperature, it has to be provided some heat. Only then the temperature will rise, and that is why heat is needed for combustion. So ignition temperature is the lowest temperature at which a substance catches fire. Now ignition, the word ignition has come from ignited, to ignite something or to burn something, or to make something fire, that is ignition. Now this temperature is not same for different substances. Every substance will have its own ignition temperature. There will be some substances which will have very low ignition temperature. So low ignition temperature means they will very easily catch fire because already the ignition temperature is low. It is like you are passing marks. For example, in your school the passing marks is 40 out of 100. In other school the passing marks is 30 out of 100. So if the passing marks is lowered, if it is 30, then it is easier to pass. If the passing marks is say 60, then it is more difficult to pass. In a similar way, if the ignition temperature is very less, it is very easy for that substance to catch fire, because the temperature when it gets ignited is very less. If the ignition temperature of a substance is very high, then it will not catch fire easily. So what we see, substances with low ignition temperature catch fire more easily. So now I think you will be able to understand why do we need to strike the matchstick, because when you strike the matchstick, friction is involved, and friction produces heat, and this heat increases the temperature of the matchstick so that it is able to reach its ignition temperature. Now you might ask, is the matchstick a combustible substance? Of course, because if you look at the head of the matchstick, it is just made. You do you know what is one of the most important constituent of the head of the matchstick? It is phosphorus, and phosphorus is highly reactive. It reacts very violently with air to catch fire. So now it is not only phosphorus which is present, small amounts of sulfur and potassium chlorate is also present. So we'll discuss about how exactly matchstick works a little later. So for now you just understand that heat is important for combustion. So a substance will not catch fire, or if you combustion on its own, so every substance will have an ignition temperature. Now, and in order that the substance reaches that ignition temperature, external heat needs to be applied to that substance. So this is how we found that three criteria are very important for combustion to take place. That is a combustible substance, heat and air. So let us look at some more examples of different substances with different ignition temperature. So if you look at this screen, you see on the first example you see paper is the combustible substance, and in the second example you see what is a combustible substance. Now which of these do you think catch fire easily? So